Hey, good morning. This is Paul at pauloriente.com and the Luffaranch. I sure appreciate you stopping by. It's been a while since I've done some videos, and well, we just did a little bit of a garden this year. We've retired from our loofah farming, and well, there's different seasons in life, and the season now is just for us to spend a little bit more time on the farm and just taking a little bit of time away. But we put up a little garden today, and I wanted to share it with you where we're at. I hadn't done any of videos about what we're really doing with regards to the farming, and I haven't really done much as far as the vegetable garden because we really were busy when we were doing the loofah. It's a tremendous amount of hand labor work, and there's just not enough time in the day to be able to do all the farming and for it and the scale that we were doing, and then going out and doing shows and various events. You know, we had a website that was online. We were selling our loofah there all over the country, and so there just wasn't much time left to do anything, but we have a little bit more time now. So just want to share a couple of different things. Again, it's a small garden for us. This is probably about, I'll tell you, it's about 4 paces wide. So maybe it's, I don't know, 15 feet wide by about, maybe about 30 yards long. But we have a lot of clay in our soil here in western North Carolina, and this area had never been planted before, so we tilled this area, and we've got about 10 tomato plants that we've put up. They're going to be Better Boy tomatoes, and you know, it's interesting to see how everybody does tomatoes. There's so many different ways on how they do them, whether it's going to be in a cage, if they're doing it with strings, how they do the pruning. There's so many different ways. I've seen them trellised up onto like cattle panels or some sort of a trellis system. But anyway, I'll just show you a little bit what we're doing. So, so let me step away here, and we'll just kind of hang with me here. So this is what it looks like down one of the little rows here. And so what we did is planted these tomatoes with a couple tablespoons of Epsom salt, and we have chickens, so we saved some of the eggshells, crushed them up really good, and put a handful in the bottom of the hole. Used some 10-10-10 fertilizer, and we planted on May 15th. And that's about the date that we need to wait to be able to get away from having any frost here in the mountains. In this season, it almost froze. We had several days of frost in the month of May, and some very close to the 15th, so you really had to wait. Sometimes you can cheat and put it in a few days early, but this year it was a little bit different. So anyhow, I've been pruning some of the lower branches off here. You can see we've got a T-post that we've used here. That's we either use, that's probably a 6.5 footer. I either have 6 or 6.5 footers that we use, and I just use a tomato cage, tied it here to the post, and I had a few extra ones, and when the tomatoes get really big, we just take another cage and flip it upside down, and so they can grow up into this area here, and we can get them at, you know, 6 feet high. So we're training them up to go as high as we can, and then so right now I'm pinching off some of the lower tomatoes that are coming out, and some of the blossoms, I'm pinching those things off so that the energy goes to the plant and not to the flowers, because we want to get these as big as we can. So we've got 10 of those right there. You can see the different the stages that they're at. These are probably, oh, that's about 2 feet high right here on that one. And then let's see what else. Next, we've got a couple of jalapenos. These happen to be really hot. We've got some giant sunflowers. Those, if you follow the channel, you know, on the giant sunflowers, we've got a series on that, and we've grown those. Oh gosh, we had some years they were 14, 15 feet high. So these are some of the seeds from those, and I just put them in the corners of the field here, of the garden. This is going to be butternut squash, and we just build a mound, and we planted 5 or 6 seeds, and then I'll just thin it to 3 seeds because these will vine about 15 feet. So we got to give them enough room. And then what you see as far as mulch, we put it out yesterday. That is actually they're wood chips that we got from the power company when they're doing pruning. They end up with a whole bunch of chips, and so we had them come over and dump a big pile and then let it sit and compost for a few years, and that's what we're using there to mulch and to help feed. This is a row of kale right here. That's looking really good. That's another over here. That's another sunflower we talked about. Then we'll walk down this row here. So here we have another mound, and I thinned this also. Let's see, this is, oh boy, I believe that's butternut squash also. I'm trying to remember here. So that's butternut, and then this is going to be acorn squash. And these last 2 mounds, I thinned them yesterday, so we've got just 3 per mound. And then if we go a little further down, this is going to be, we got 4 different mounds, and this is going to be zucchini. And another zucchini. Then we have yellow squash. And I actually think, I don't always do this, but I happen to save one of these little tags. Here we go. That's a straight neck heirloom squash. All right, cool. So, got one of those and one here. Then we have a row of potatoes, and they're just starting to pop up, and these grow really well when you do a raised kind of bed right here. So we dug down about maybe 6 or 8 inches, and we just did a little trench. Put the potatoes in the ground, fill the hole, and wait till this starts to sprout. And as it begins to sprout, then you're going to take a hard rake, and you just start to rake it back up. And you rake it from let's say this side, and you rake it from that side. So anyway, you just rake it up into a mound, and that's what we've done here. Now yesterday, before I pulled the rows back up, pulled the soil back up, I put some more mulch down in there and then covered it back up again. So it's going to give a little bit of kind of compost-y as it rains. It's going to give some organic to it, because this is just all clay right here. So what is the strings for? For those of you who have not grown potatoes, or in a place where you're trying to keep things somewhat straight in the garden, because you're going to go and water it, right? So how are you going to know if you dig the potatoes in, if you dig the trench, in order to help keep the line straight? So we just did something simple. You just take a couple of stakes, see right here, and you hammer those into the ground, and you just take some string and you stretch it. And if you need to tighten it up, we just have a little knot we tied here, and you can just tighten that up there. So you bury your potatoes, and then with the string there, you know exactly where to water if you're not getting enough rain for the year, and you just water the string. And eventually the potatoes pop up, and then you really don't need to have the string there. So to the point where I could actually remove it now, and once you start hilling it up, it's really obvious where your potatoes are at. And well, it doesn't need to be perfect as far as how straight it is in the garden, but some folks, I guess that's important. But the main thing for us is that when you go to water it, that you're watering the potatoes and not a foot or 2 away somewhere else. So that works pretty good. So anyhow, that is where we are at on the garden. So try and keep you updated here as the season goes along. Hopefully we'll have a great harvest. Amy, my wife, loves to can the tomatoes. We make tomato sauce and a bunch of different recipes. with the tomatoes that we can enjoy that have been canned all throughout the next year. So through the wintertime when you don't have great tomatoes maybe in the grocery store, we've got it. The squash you can blanch and freeze off. You can vacuum pack them, put them in the freezer, and they last a long time. So we tried to put up the things that we enjoy. We certainly have room to put a couple more things, but we just try and plant what we're going to use, what we can give to others that we know enjoy eating. Some of the squash, the kale is really healthy. And the sunflower seeds, we'll use some of those seeds for the birds at the bird feeders, and it's a fun hobby, and you get a chance to eat some great food. So I'll encourage you, if you haven't put up a garden or if you haven't seen any of these plants and how they grow, I'd encourage you, do a little bit of research, give it a try. It's an awful lot of fun. If you got kids, sunflowers and vegetables, when you're growing and you involve them with it, hey, it gives them an interest in gardening, and helps them appreciate when you go to the grocery store. If you take your kids, it's a little different when you just grab something from the shelf and you go home. When you grow it yourself, it's going to be fantastic quality. And if you want to see your kids eat vegetables, I say get together with your kids, teach them how to grow it, and they will take an interest in it, and they'll want to taste those vegetables. So anyhow, it's healthy, it's nutritious, and it's an awful lot of fun. So all right, thanks again for stopping by. God bless you. We'll see you soon.